Princess Zara ran through the dark forest as fast as she could. Her long purple dress was torn and dirty. Behind her, she could hear the bounty hunters getting closer. Their heavy boots crashed through the dead leaves on the ground. 3 days ago, everything had been perfect. Zara was on planet Kepler 442b for peace talks between her people and the local government. She was supposed to be safe with her royal guards protecting her. But the rebels had attacked during the night. They killed all her guards and took over the building where she was staying. Zara had escaped through a window, but now she was alone on a strange planet. She had never been so scared in her life. The bounty hunters wanted to capture her and sell her back to the rebels. They would use her to make her father, the emperor, do whatever they wanted. A laser blast hit the tree next to her head. Wood pieces flew everywhere. Zara screamed and ran faster, but she could not run much longer. Her legs were tired and her lungs burned. She was not used to running like this. Palace life had not prepared her for this kind of danger. "There she is," shouted one of the hunters. "The alien princess can't run forever." Zara looked back and saw 3 men with big guns chasing her. They wore dark clothes and had mean faces. She knew they would catch her soon. There was nowhere left to run. The forest ended ahead, and beyond that was open ground where they would see her easily. Suddenly, something moved in the shadows between the trees. Zara thought it might be another hunter. But then she saw him step into the moonlight. It was a man wearing strange black armor that seemed to absorb light. His face was hidden behind a helmet with glowing red eyes. In his hands was a weapon she had never seen before. The mysterious figure raised one hand toward Zara, telling her to stop. His voice came through a device that made it sound different. "Get down, princess. Stay low and don't move." Zara did not know if she should trust this stranger, but she had no choice. She dropped to the ground behind a fallen tree. The bounty hunters were almost there. "Who are you?" called out the first hunter. "This is none of your business. Walk away and you won't get hurt." The armored man did not answer. Instead, he moved so fast that Zara could barely see him. 1 second he was standing still, the next he was behind the first hunter. There was a flash of blue light, and the hunter fell to the ground, unconscious. The other 2 hunters started shooting, but the mysterious man was already gone. He moved through the trees like a ghost, always staying in the shadows. His footsteps made no sound at all. The hunters spun around, trying to find him, but he seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at the same time. More blue flashes lit up the dark forest. In less than 2 minutes, all 3 hunters were on the ground. The mysterious warrior had defeated them without killing anyone. Zara was amazed. She had never seen anyone fight like that. The armored man walked over to where she was hiding. Up close, she could see that his armor was covered with strange symbols that seemed to move in the dim light. His helmet completely hid his face, but somehow she could tell he was looking at her. "Are you hurt, princess?" he asked. His voice was calm and steady. Zara stood up slowly. Her whole body was shaking. "No, I am fine. Who are you? How do you know who I am?" "You can call me Jake. I know because word travels fast when an imperial princess goes missing. The whole galaxy is looking for you." Zara studied this Jake person carefully. Something about him was very strange. Most humans were weak and stupid, everyone knew that. They were a young species that had barely learned to travel between stars. Yet this human had just defeated 3 armed bounty hunters like it was easy. "You are human," she said. It was not a question. "Yes. But humans are not good fighters. Everyone knows this." Jake tilted his helmet slightly. Even though she could not see his face, she could tell he was amused by her words. "Everyone knows many things that are not true, princess." He walked over to the unconscious hunters and started taking their weapons and communication devices. His movements were quick and efficient, like a professional soldier. "We need to leave this place soon. More hunters will come when these 3 don't report back." Zara watched him work. Jake handled the alien weapons like he had been using them his whole life. He also spoke her language perfectly, with no accent at all. Most humans could barely pronounce Veltar words correctly. "How do you speak our language so well?" she asked. "I studied it." Jake finished collecting the weapons and turned back to her. We should go now. Do you know how to ride? Ride what? Jake whistled softly. A few seconds later, two large creatures came through the trees. They looked like horses, but with 6 legs and scales instead of fur. Zara had seen pictures of them before. They were native to this planet and very fast. Where did these come from? Zara asked. I left them tied up when I heard the shooting. Can you ride or not? Zara lifted her chin proudly. I am an imperial princess. Of course I can ride. But when Jake helped her up onto one of the creatures, she realized riding a 6-legged scaled horse was much harder than riding the gentle animals back home. The creature moved differently, and she had to hold on tight to keep from falling off. Jake got on the other animal easily. He looked comfortable, like he had been riding these creatures for years. Hold the front spikes, not the neck. They don't like having their necks grabbed. As they rode through the dark forest, Zara found herself looking at Jake more and more. Everything about him was wrong according to what she had been taught about humans. He was smart, skilled, and respectful. He had saved her life without asking for anything in return. Why are you helping me? She asked as they stopped to rest the animals near a small stream. Jake was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was softer than before. Because it's the right thing to do, and because I believe some things are more important than the differences between our species. Zara felt something strange in her chest when he said that. No one had ever talked to her that way before. Most people only cared about her because she was a princess. But Jake seemed to see her as a person, not just a title. They rode through the night, and Zara found herself trusting this mysterious human warrior more with each passing hour. For 3 days, Zara and Jake traveled through the wild lands of planet Kepler, 442b. Jake seemed to know exactly where they were going, even though Zara had never seen him look at a map. He found safe places to sleep during the day and clean, water to drink. He even knew which plants were safe to eat. How do you know so much about this planet? Zara asked on the second morning as Jake prepared their breakfast. I study the places I might have to work, Jake said simply. He handed her some blue fruits that tasted surprisingly sweet. Knowledge keeps people alive. Zara ate the fruit and watched Jake check their supplies. Everything he did was careful and planned. He never wasted time or energy. She had to admit that he was nothing like the humans she had been told about. Tell me about your home, Jake said as they prepared to travel again. What is the Veltar Empire really like? Zara was surprised by the question. Most people only asked about the Empire because they wanted something from it, but Jake sounded truly interested. So she told him about the great crystal cities that floated above purple oceans. She described the music that filled the air and the beautiful art that covered every building. It sounds peaceful, Jake said. It is, but sometimes too peaceful. Zara paused. My father has arranged for me to marry a human diplomat when I return home. Someone I have never even met. Jake's hands stopped moving for just a moment as he packed their supplies. You don't want to marry him? How can I marry someone I don't know? His name is Alex Morrison. Father says he is intelligent and speaks our language well, but that means nothing to me. I want to choose who I spend my life with. What if you met him and discovered he was a good person? Jake asked quietly. It would not matter. He is still being forced on me because of politics. How can there be love when there is no choice? They rode in silence for a while after that. Zara noticed that Jake seemed deep in thought about something. When they stopped to rest the animals, she decided to ask him about his own life. Do you have family, Jake? Not anymore, he said. I lost them in the war between humans and the Zephyr Empire. That's why I became a soldier. I am sorry, Zara said. She meant it. Even though Jake was human, she could hear the pain in his voice. It taught me that hatred between species only brings more death. Jake continued. Now I try to build bridges instead of burning them down. That evening, they found shelter in some old ruins that Jake said had been built by an ancient civilization. The stone walls were covered with symbols that seemed to glow softly in the dark. Jake started a small fire and began preparing their dinner. These symbols, Zara said, touching the wall, They look familiar, but I cannot read them. Jake looked up from his cooking. They are old Veltar writing. Very old. This says something about unity between different peoples brings strength to all. Zara stared at him in shock. You can read ancient Veltar. Even most of my own people cannot do that. It is only taught to scholars and priests. I told you. I like to study things. Jake's voice sounded embarrassed. Languages are interesting to me. But Zara was not fooled. Reading ancient Veltar took years of difficult study. No human had ever learned it before, as far as she knew. Who was this Jake Morrison really? As they ate their simple meal, Jake began reciting poetry in perfect ancient Veltar. The words were from the Song of Stars, one of the most beautiful poems ever written by her people. But the way Jake spoke, it was different. He understood not just the words, but the deep meaning behind them. Where did you learn that? Zara whispered. From someone who taught me that beauty can exist anywhere if you know how to look for it. Zara felt her heart beat faster. No one had ever spoken to her like this before. Jake was mysterious and dangerous, but also gentle and wise. She found herself wanting to know everything about him. Why do you hide your face? She asked suddenly. Jake was quiet for a long time. The fire crackled between them, casting moving shadows on the ancient walls. Sometimes it is better to be judged by actions rather than appearance. I would not judge you. You already have, Princess. You decided I was just a stupid human before you even met me. Zara felt her face grow hot with shame. Jake was right. She had thought all humans were beneath her notice, but this human had saved her life and shown her more kindness than most of her own people ever had. I was wrong about humans, she admitted. At least I was wrong about you. On the fourth day, they came to a deep valley where the morning fog was thick and white. Jake suddenly stopped his mount and held up his hand for silence. Zara could not see anything in the fog, but Jake seemed to be listening carefully. We are not alone, he whispered. Stay close to me and do exactly what I say. Soon Zara heard voices in the distance. Men were calling to each other in the common, galactic language. They were looking for something or someone. Imperial troops, Jake said quietly. They are supposed to be friendly, but something feels wrong about this. Jake led them off the main path and through the thick trees. They moved, slowly and quietly, trying to stay hidden in the fog. But the voices got closer and closer. Princess Zara, called one of the men. We are here to rescue you. Your father sent us. Zara started to answer, but Jake grabbed her arm and shook his head. His grip was firm but not painful. She could tell. He was very worried about something. Wait, he whispered. Listen to how they talk. Zara listened more carefully. The men spoke the right words, but their accent was wrong. They sounded like they came from the outer rim worlds, not the Imperial core planets where her father's best soldiers were trained. They are fake, she breathed. Yes. Rebels pretending to be Imperial troops. If they catch you, they will sell you to the highest bidder. The fake soldiers spread out through the forest, searching everywhere. There were at least 10 of them, all armed with military weapons. Jake studied their movements carefully, like he was planning something. Can we escape? Zara asked. Not the way we came. They have the whole valley covered. Jake checked his weapons. We will have to go through them. Through 10 armed men? That is impossible. Jake looked at her through his helmet. Even though she could not see his face, she could tell he was smiling. Princess, you still don't understand what humans can do when we have to. What happened next was like watching a master artist create a painting. Jake moved through the fake soldiers like he could see the future. He knew exactly where each man would be and what he would do next. One by one, Jake disabled them with precise strikes that left them unconscious, but alive. Zara watched in amazement as this human warrior defeated 10 trained fighters without making a sound. It was impossible, but she was seeing it happen. Jake was not just skilled, he was brilliant. Every move he made was perfect. When it was over, Jake returned to her side, as calmly as if nothing had happened. We should go now. More will come when these don't report back. As they rode away from the valley, Zara could not stop staring at Jake. He had just done something that should have been impossible for any single person, human or otherwise. But he acted like it was normal. "Jake," she said finally. "Who are you really?" Jake was quiet for so long that Zara thought he would not answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was very soft. "I am someone who believes that the differences between our people are not as important as the things we share." That night, as they made camp under the alien stars, Zara realized something that shocked her. She was falling in love with this mysterious human warrior. It did not matter that he was human or that she could not see his face. Jake Morrison was the most amazing person she had ever met. But she also knew that this could never last. Soon, they would reach the Imperial outpost and Jake would disappear back to whatever life he came from. She would have to return home and marry the stranger her father had chosen for her. The thought made her heart ache in a way she had never felt before. On the morning of the 6th day, Jake and Zara reached the top of a high hill and looked down at the Imperial outpost in the valley below. What they saw made Zara's heart sink with fear. The outpost was under attack. Rebel ships filled the sky. Above it, firing down at the buildings. Smoke rose from several places where explosions had damaged the walls. The Imperial flag still flew above the main building, but Zara could see that the defenders were badly outnumbered. "We are too late," she said sadly. "The rebels got here first." Jake studied the battle through a small device that made distant things look close. "No, the outpost is still fighting. See that shield dome over the main building? That means the command center is still working." "But how can we get inside?" "There are too many rebel ships." Jake put away his viewing device and looked at her. "Princess, I need you to trust me completely now. What I am about to do will seem impossible, but I need you to believe that I can get us inside safely." Zara looked into the glowing red eyes of his helmet. Over the past week, this mysterious human had saved her life several times and never let her down. She had learned to trust him more than anyone she had ever known. "I trust you, Jake." Jake nodded. "Good. We are going to ride straight down into that battle. When I tell you to jump off your mount, do it immediately. When I tell you to run as fast as you can toward the command center. Do not stop for anything, do not look back. Can you do this?" Zara's mouth felt dry, but she nodded. Yes. They rode down the hill at full speed. The six-legged mounts were faster than Zara had ever imagined possible. The wind whipped her hair back and made her eyes water. Around them, laser blasts filled the air as the rebel ships tried to shoot them. Jake rode beside her, somehow staying perfectly calm while guiding his mount around the enemy fire. He seemed to know exactly where each blast would go before it happened. It was like he could read the minds of the rebel pilots. When they reached the bottom of the hill, Jake suddenly veered to the right. "This way. The main entrance is too well guarded." They rode around the side of the outpost to a place where the wall had been damaged by the bombing. There was a hole just big enough for a person to crawl through, but it was 20 feet above the ground. "Jump now," Jake shouted. Zara jumped off her mount just as Jake did. She rolled on the ground and came up running just like he had taught her. Behind them, she could hear their mounts galloping away to safety. Jake fired some kind of device at the wall above them. A thin rope shot out and stuck to the stone. "Climb," he said, pointing to the rope. Zara had never climbed a rope before in her life, but somehow she managed to pull herself up to the hole in the wall. Jake climbed behind her, moving much faster despite carrying all his weapons and equipment. Inside the outpost, everything was chaos. Imperial soldiers ran back and forth, trying to repair damage and prepare for the next attack. Alarms were ringing everywhere, and emergency lights flashed red and white. "The command center is this way," Jake said, leading her through the maze of corridors. Again, he seemed to know exactly where he was going, even though he claimed he had never been to this outpost before. They reached a heavy door marked with Imperial security symbols. Jake pulled out a small device and connected it to the door's lock system. Within seconds, the door slid open. "How did you do that?" Zara asked, amazed. "Trade secret," Jake said. But Zara noticed that his voice sounded strange, like he was worried about something. Inside the command center, they found 3 Imperial officers arguing over battle plans. When they saw Zara, their faces showed great relief. "Princess, thank the stars you are safe," said the commander, a tall woman with gray hair. "We have been searching for you for days." "This human saved my life," Zara said, pointing to Jake. "He fought off bounty hunters and got me here safely." The Imperial officers looked at Jake with surprise and respect. It was rare for humans to help the Imperial family, and even rarer for them to do it so successfully. "We owe you a great debt, human," the commander said to Jake. "What is your name?" "Jake Morrison," he replied. "But right now we have bigger problems. How long can you hold out against the rebels?" The commander's face grew dark. "Not long. They have 3 times as many ships as we do, and our shields are failing. We sent a message for help, but the nearest Imperial fleet is 2 days away." Jake moved to the main control panel and began studying the tactical display. His fingers moved over the controls like he had used this exact system many times before. The Imperial officers watched in amazement as he analyzed their situation. "There," Jake said, pointing to a spot on the display. "The rebel command ship is here, in the center of their formation. If we can disable it, the other ships will have trouble coordinating their attacks." "Impossible," said one of the officers. "That ship is too well protected. We would need to send half our fighters just to get close, and we don't have half our fighters left." "What if I told you there was another way?" Jake asked quietly. Before anyone could answer, a massive explosion shook the whole building. Warning lights flashed even brighter, and a computerized voice announced that the outer shields had failed. "They are breaking through," shouted the commander. "All troops to defensive positions." Jake grabbed Zara's hand. "Come with me. There is something I have to show you." He led her to a small side room filled with communication equipment. Once they were alone, Jake locked the door behind them and turned to face her. "Princess, what I am about to tell you will change everything between us. Are you ready for that?" Zara's heart began beating very fast. She could tell that Jake was about to reveal something important, something that would explain all the mysteries about him. "Yes," she whispered. Jake reached up to his helmet. For a moment his hands hesitated, as if he was afraid of what would happen next. Then, slowly, he began to remove it. The helmet came off with a soft hiss of air. Underneath was the face of a young human man with brown hair and kind blue eyes. He was handsome in a gentle way, not at all like the fierce warrior she had imagined, but it was not his appearance that made Zara gasp and step backward. It was the fact that she recognized him. She had seen his face in the official portraits her father had shown her. She had memorized his features from the diplomatic files she was supposed to study before their wedding. The mysterious warrior who had saved her life, who had shown her poetry and philosophy, who had made her fall in love for the first time in her life, was Alex Morrison, her arranged husband, the man she was supposed to marry. "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "This is not possible." Alex looked at her with sad eyes. "I am sorry, Zara. I never wanted you to find out this way. You lied to me." Zara's voice was getting louder, even though she knew they needed to stay quiet. "You pretended to be someone else. You made me trust you, made me feel—" She could not finish the sentence. "I never lied about my feelings," Alex said quietly. "Everything I said to you, everything I showed you, that was real. The only thing I hid was my name. Your name? Your name is everything. You are the stranger my father chose for me. You are the person I was dreading to marry." Alex took a step toward her, but Zara backed away. She felt like her whole world was falling apart. The man she had fallen in love with and the man she was supposed to marry were the same person, but somehow that made everything worse instead of better. "Let me explain," Alex said desperately. "I became Jake Morrison because I wanted to protect the peace between our peoples. There are rebels on both sides who want to start a war. They have been attacking human and Veltar diplomats, trying to make us hate each other. So you decided to become a secret warrior?" "Yes. I used my diplomatic access to gather information about rebel activities. When I heard you were missing, I came to find you myself because I could not trust anyone else to do it safely." Another explosion shook the building, but neither of them noticed. Zara was staring at Alex like she had never seen him before. "You have been watching me," she said. "Studying me. Learning what I like, so you could make me fall in love with you." "No." Alex's voice was full of pain. "I fell in love with you too, Zara. I did not plan for that to happen. When I started talking to you as Jake, I thought I was just keeping you safe until I could get you home. But you are amazing and brave and beautiful, and I could not help myself." Zara turned away from him. She did not want to see the honest emotion in his eyes because it made her feel confused and angry at the same time. "I do not know what is real anymore," she said. "I thought Jake Morrison was someone special, someone who saw me as a person instead of just a princess. But Jake Morrison does not exist. He was just a lie you told." "He exists," Alex said softly. "Jake Morrison is who I really am when no one is watching. The diplomatic Alex Morrison is the lie I tell at fancy parties." Before Zara could respond, the door burst open. The commander ran in, looking terrified. "Princess, the rebels have broken through the inner defenses. We have to evacuate the command center now." Alex immediately put his helmet back on and picked up his weapons. "How much time do we have?" "Maybe 5 minutes before they reach us." Alex turned to Zara. She could not see his face anymore, but she could hear the determination in his voice. "We will finish this conversation later. Right now, we need to get you to safety." But Zara was not listening. She was thinking about everything Alex had told her. He had. 3 days later, Zara sat in her private chambers on the Imperial homeworld, staring out at the purple oceans she had once loved. The crystal cities still floated in the distance, and music still filled the air. But everything felt different now. She felt different. The rescue had been successful. Alex had gotten her safely off the outpost just before the rebels took it over. An Imperial fleet had arrived hours later and driven the rebels away. But by then, she and Alex were already on a ship heading home. They had not spoken during the entire journey. Alex had stayed in his diplomatic quarters while Zara remained with the other rescued civilians. She had seen him only once when he came to make sure she was not hurt. He looked tired and sad, but he did not try to talk to her about what had happened. Now they were both home, and in 2 days they were supposed to be married. The wedding had been planned for months with guests coming from all over the galaxy. It was too late to cancel it without causing a major diplomatic crisis, but Zara did not know if she could go through with it. A soft knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in," she called. Her grandmother entered the room. Empress Calathea was very old now, but she still moved with the grace of someone who had once ruled half the galaxy. Her silver hair was braided with jewels, and her ancient eyes seemed to see everything. "You look troubled, child," the old empress said, sitting down next to Zara. "Grandmother, what was it like when you married grandfather? Did you love him right away?" Calathea smiled. "Love him? I hated him. He was from a rival family that my father wanted to make peace with. I thought he was arrogant and stupid, and I told him so on our wedding day. But you were happy together later. Eventually, yes, but not because we were forced to marry. We became happy because we chose to build something together after the marriage. Love is not just a feeling, Zara. It is also a decision you make every day." Zara sighed. "But what if the person you are supposed to marry has been lying to you?" Her grandmother gave her a sharp look. "Has your Alex been lying to you? The reports I read said he saved your life and brought you home safely." "It is more complicated than that." Zara told her grandmother the whole story, from meeting Jake in the forest to discovering his real identity. When she finished, Calathea was quiet for a long time. "So this human warrior who saved you, who showed you poetry and treated you with respect, who made you feel like a person instead of just a princess, he is the same man you are supposed to marry?" "Yes." "And you are angry about this because—" Zara stared at her grandmother. "Because he lied to me. He pretended to be someone else. Did he lie about his feelings for you? He says he did not. Did he lie about his character? About being brave and honorable and intelligent? No, but Then what exactly did he lie about, child? His name? Names are just sounds we make with our mouths. They do not define who a person really is. Zara felt tears starting in her eyes. I fell in love with Jake Morrison. But Jake Morrison does not exist. Calathea took her granddaughter's hand. From what you have told me, Jake Morrison is more real than Alex Morrison the diplomat. Jake is who he becomes when he can be himself. Alex the diplomat is just a role he plays for politics. But I feel so foolish. I thought I was choosing my own path, falling in love with someone my father had not picked for me. But it turns out father picked the right person anyway. Perhaps, said Calathea gently, your father knows you better than you think. Or perhaps the human is simply worthy of love, no matter what name he uses. That evening, Zara walked through the palace gardens, trying to clear her head. The night flowers were blooming, filling the air with their sweet scent. She had always found peace in these gardens, but tonight they only made her feel more confused. As she rounded a corner, she almost ran into someone coming the other way. It was Alex, still wearing his formal diplomatic clothes from some meeting with the council. They stood facing each other in the moonlight, neither knowing what to say. Alex looked like he had not been sleeping well. His usually neat hair was messy, and there were dark circles under his eyes. "Hello, Princess," he said quietly. "I did not expect to see you here. I often walk here when I need to think." Zara paused. "Alex, we need to talk about what happens in 2 days." Alex nodded. "I know. If you want to call off the wedding, I will support your decision. I will tell the council it was my choice, so you will not be blamed." "You would do that? Even though it would ruin your diplomatic career?" "Your happiness is more important than my career." Zara studied his face in the pale light. "Is that something Jake Morrison would say, or Alex Morrison the diplomat?" Alex smiled sadly. "I suppose that is the real question, is it not? Which one of me is real?" "I have been thinking about that," Zara said. "I think maybe they are both real. Maybe Jake Morrison is who you are when you can be honest about what you believe in, and Alex Morrison is who you have to be to make those beliefs possible. Does that make any difference to how you feel about marrying me?" Zara was quiet for a long moment. "I do not know yet. I am still angry that you hid the truth from me. I understand. I would be angry too." They walked together deeper into the garden, past fountains that sparkled in the starlight. Zara found herself remembering the conversations she had shared with Jake during their journey, the way he had listened to her dreams and fears, the way he had treated her like her thoughts mattered. "Alex," she said finally, "when you were Jake and I told you about my arranged marriage, why did you ask if I might learn to love my husband after meeting him?" Alex stopped walking. "Because I was hoping you might give me a chance to prove I was worth loving." "And when I said I wanted to choose who I married, what were you thinking?" "I was thinking that I wanted to be the person you would choose if you really knew me." Zara felt her heart beating faster. "What if I told you that I did choose you? Not Alex Morrison, the diplomat that my father picked, but Jake Morrison, the man who saved my life and made me laugh and recited ancient poetry while we sat by the fire." Alex turned to face her completely. "Then I would tell you that Jake Morrison would be honored to marry you if you would have him. But I cannot marry Jake Morrison. I can only marry Alex Morrison." "What if I told you they are the same person? What if Alex Morrison promised to be as honest and brave in his marriage as Jake Morrison was in the wilderness?" Zara looked into Alex's eyes and saw the same kindness and strength that had made her trust Jake in the forest. She also saw love there, real and deep and patient. "There is something else I need to know," she said. "When you came to rescue me, was it because your duty as a diplomat required it, or because you wanted to save me personally?" Alex took her hand gently. "I came because the woman I was supposed to marry was in danger, and I could not bear the thought of anything happening to her. Even if she never learned to love me, I needed to know she was safe." "So you did care about me before we met?" "I cared about the idea of you, but after spending time with you in the forest, I fell in love with the real you. The person who was brave enough to keep going when everything seemed hopeless. The person who was kind to someone she thought was just a human mercenary. the person who made me want to be worthy of her trust. Zara felt the anger that had been burning in her chest for 3 days finally start to fade away. Alex had made mistakes, but his heart had been in the right place. He had been trying to protect both their peoples and keep her safe at the same time. Alex, she said softly, if we do get married, how do I know you will not keep secrets from me in the future? Because I will not have to. The war between our peoples is ending, which means I will not need to be Jake Morrison anymore. I can just be Alex Morrison, your husband, who loves you and wants to build a good life with you. Zara smiled for the first time in days. I think I would like that, but I have one condition. Anything. Sometimes when we are alone together, I want you to be Jake Morrison, the man who taught me that love is possible between any two people who truly understand each other. Alex brought her hand to his lips and kissed it gently. Princess Zara, it would be my honor to be whoever you need me to be. Today, tomorrow, and for the rest of our lives. As they walked back toward the palace together, Zara realized that her grandmother had been right. Love was not just a feeling, it was a choice, and she was choosing to love Alex Morrison, all of him, including the parts of himself he kept hidden from the rest of the world. In 2 days, she would marry the man her father had chosen for her, but more importantly, she would be marrying the man she had chosen for herself. They were, after all, the same person. The wedding day arrived with perfect weather. The morning sky was clear and purple, and the floating cities sparkled like jewels in the distance. Representatives from dozens of worlds had come to watch Princess Zara marry the human diplomat Alex Morrison. It was supposed to be a celebration of peace between their two species, but as Zara put on her beautiful white dress, she felt nervous for reasons that had nothing to do with getting married. Alex had discovered something terrible while reviewing security reports for the wedding. The rebels who had attacked the outpost were planning something much worse. They intended to use the wedding as cover for an attack that would kill both Zara and Alex along with most of the human and Veltar leadership. The rebels wanted to start a war that would destroy both civilizations. Are you sure about this plan? Zara asked Alex as they met privately in a small room near the wedding hall. Alex was wearing his finest diplomatic uniform, but underneath it she knew he had hidden armor and weapons. It is the only way, Alex said. If we cancel the wedding, the rebels will know we discovered their plan, and they will just try again later. But if we go ahead with it, we can catch them all at once. And if something goes wrong, Alex took her hands in his, then we face it together. But nothing will go wrong, Zara. I promise you that. Zara looked into his eyes and saw the same confidence that Jake Morrison had shown when fighting the bounty hunters. She trusted him completely. The wedding ceremony was held in the great hall of the palace. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy filled the seats, all dressed in their finest clothes. The hall itself was one of the most beautiful places in the Empire, with crystal walls that sang softly in harmony, and flowers that changed color with the emotions of the people near them. As Zara walked down the long aisle toward Alex, she saw him standing at the altar waiting for her. He looked handsome and dignified in his formal clothes, but she also noticed the slight bulge where his hidden weapons were concealed. Around the hall, she could see Imperial guards in their dress uniforms, but she knew that many of them were really soldiers prepared for battle. When Zara reached the altar, Alex took her hand and smiled. To everyone watching, they looked like a nervous but happy couple about to be married. Only Zara could see the alertness in Alex's eyes as he scanned the crowd for signs of danger. The ceremony began with traditional Veltar vows. Alex spoke his part in perfect ancient Veltar, promising to protect and honor Zara for as long as they both lived. When it was Zara's turn, she looked into his eyes and promised to stand by him through whatever challenges they might face. Then came the human part of the ceremony. Alex had chosen to include human traditions as well, to show that their marriage truly joined their two cultures. As he spoke his vows in English, Zara felt her heart swell with emotion. These were not just words required by tradition. Alex meant every promise he made. I take you, Zara, to be my wife, Alex said clearly. Not because politics require it, but because I choose you. I choose to love you, to protect you, and to build a future with you that is better than anything either of us could create alone." Zara felt tears in her eyes as she repeated similar words back to him. When they kissed to seal their marriage, the flowers around the hall bloomed in brilliant colors of joy and love. The reception afterward was held in the palace gardens. Music filled the air, and beings from many different worlds mingled together, talking and laughing. For a few hours it seemed like the dream of galactic peace might actually be possible, but Alex never relaxed his guard. As he and Zara moved through the crowd, accepting congratulations from their guests, he kept watching for anything unusual. Zara stayed close to him, ready to act if needed. The attack came just as the sun was setting. It started with small explosions around the edges of the gardens meant to create confusion and panic. Then armed rebels in stolen Imperial uniforms burst through the main entrances, firing at anyone who tried to stop them. But Alex and Zara were ready. Alex immediately threw off his diplomatic jacket, revealing the combat armor underneath. He pulled out weapons that had been hidden in his formal clothes and began coordinating the defense. The Imperial guards dropped their pretense of being ceremonial and became the elite soldiers they really were. Zara, meanwhile, used her knowledge of the palace to guide civilians to safety while directing the military response. She had studied the rebel plans as carefully as Alex had, and she knew exactly what they were trying to do. "The main force is heading for the communications center," she told Alex over their private radio link. "If they take that, they can send false distress signals that will bring more rebel ships." "I see them," Alex replied. He was moving through the gardens like the Jake Morrison she had first met, taking down rebels with precise, efficient strikes. "Can you get to the backup communication system?" Already there. Zara had reached a hidden control room that most people did not even know existed. From here, she could coordinate Imperial forces across the entire star system. The battle lasted for 2 hours. The rebels had planned their attack carefully, but they had not expected Alex and Zara to be ready for them. They also had not expected the bride and groom to be so skilled at warfare. When it was over, more than 50 rebel agents had been captured, including several who had been posing as honored guests. The evidence they provided led to the arrest of rebel leaders on dozens of worlds. As Alex and Zara stood together in the gardens afterward, both of them dirty and tired but victorious, Alex smiled at her. "Well, Princess, this was certainly an interesting wedding day." Zara laughed despite everything that had happened. "I will remember it for the rest of my life. Though next time, could we plan something quieter for our anniversary? Next time, we will be somewhere peaceful, building the future instead of fighting for it." Over the following months, Alex and Zara worked together to create new programs that brought humans and Veltar together. Instead of just signing treaties, they established exchanges where young people from both species could live and study together. They created joint exploration missions and shared research projects. Alex was able to stop being Jake Morrison the secret warrior and focus on being Alex Morrison the bridge builder. But sometimes when he and Zara were alone, she would ask him to tell her stories about their adventures in the wilderness. Those memories had become precious to both of them. Zara discovered that being married to Alex was nothing like what she had feared. He never tried to control her or limit her activities. Instead, he supported her own diplomatic work and often asked for her advice on difficult problems. They became true partners in every sense. 6 months after their wedding, they made their first joint diplomatic mission to a world where humans and Veltar had never worked together before. The local leaders were suspicious and hostile, convinced that the two species could never truly cooperate. But when they saw Alex and Zara together, the way they respected each other and built on each other's strengths, the local leaders began to change their minds. Here was living proof that different species could not just get along, but could make each other better. "How did you know this would work?" the local governor asked Zara privately. Zara smiled and looked across the room at Alex, who was deep in conversation with a group of local scientists. "Because I learned that love is not about finding someone exactly like yourself. It is about finding someone who helps you become the best version of who you are meant to be." Years later, When historians wrote about the great peace that ended, centuries of conflict between humans and Veltar, they would point to many important treaties and agreements. But those who had been there knew that it really started with a princess who learned to see past her prejudices, and a warrior who learned that sometimes the best battles are fought with understanding instead of weapons. Alex and Zara's marriage became a symbol of what was possible when different peoples chose to build bridges instead of walls. Their children would grow up in a galaxy where being different was seen as a strength, not a threat. And sometimes late at night when they were alone together, Zara would ask Alex to put on his old combat armor and tell her again about the night they met in the forest. Because that was where their real story had begun, not with a political arrangement but with two people choosing to trust each other despite everything that said they should not. The mysterious warrior Jake Morrison had disappeared from the galaxy's records, but he lived on in their private moments. He was the part of Alex that had first made Zara believe that love could exist between any two beings who were brave enough to see each other truly. Their love story proved that sometimes the person you are meant to be with is not the person you expect, but the person who helps you discover who you really are. And sometimes, if you are very lucky, those two people turn out to be the same.